There's recently been an intense uprising debate about GMOs, which are more commonly known as genetically modified foods. GM foods are foods that have their DNA altered in order to enhance specific traits within the plant seed, such as the ability to grow in multiple climates, like cold, hot, and dry places. They also grow in larger amounts and even resist larvae and other pests. One way this is done is by selective breeding, which is when the plants are bred together in order to get an offspring to have a specific trait. Another way is when the organism is exposed to radiation, so that it will have a subtle change resulting in an improved plant. This is known as mutation breeding. There are many different views on this subject. Some people are saying it will help. These people believe that this is a smarter, more efficient way to grow crops, and to help developing countries produce as much food as possible, making them stronger. Others are against it because they say there are negative side effects on the environment. They believe these foods are unnatural and harmful too. There are yet others who see both sides equally, seeing the positive effects along with the negative ones. I'm here today in order to get you both sides of the story. I've made it my task to get these views from every single viewpoint. First, we will be interviewing a farmer from a developing country to get her views on this subject. Are you for or against genetically modified foods?
I am for genetically modified foods. They can help a lot in the fields.
Why are you for genetically modified foods?
We should have genetically modified foods because if we put genes in them that keep away pests but are safe for humans to consume, then it saves money. Because then we won't have to waste money on more pesticides. And also, we don't have to grow more crops because the other ones get destroyed and are eaten. We can just have crops that keep away pests with the pesticide gene that are perfectly safe for humans to eat. Genetically modified foods also grow faster and are more suitable for severe weather conditions. Instead of usually just one weather condition, like hot and sunny, for example, if there was an unexpected cold, an anti-freeze gene could tolerate the cold. Also, if there was a drought, the genetically modified crops could withstand the drought. They also contain more nutrients, vitamins, and minerals, which is beneficial for consumers. Genetically modified foods also help control diseases and prevent people from disease, which is very beneficial.
How does it help developing countries?
Genetically modified foods help developing countries because, again, they can help keep harmful pests away, and they can be resistant to many different weather conditions, such as drought, hurricanes, tornadoes, which is very helpful in developing countries where the weather conditions are rough. They also can be genetically modified to be used as vaccines, which can be used quite often if they don't have the same medical supplies or access that we do in the United States.
Why shouldn't there be labeling?
There should not be labeling because consumers will think that genetically modified foods are bad, and then they won't buy our crops, even when genetically modified foods are helpful and beneficial. They will think that having genes from other species is unethical and won't buy the products that we are selling, even when they are perfectly safe and will not harm anyone.
I'm here with Flora Tora from Mississippi. She's going to give us her opinion on genetically modified foods. How do you feel about genetically modified foods?
I'm completely against them. They're unnatural, they're unsafe, and we should not be using them at all.
So I take it you're against them?
Yes, very much.
Why is that?
Well, these foods have caused many harmful side effects. They take the corn crops, for example. When the corn is genetically modified to keep all the pests away, it harms the honeybees nearby. These honeybees pollinate the plants around us and produce the honey that we eat. The pesticides spread through the air and cause the honeybees to catch diseases that are fatal to them. This causes these bees to have a 67% rate of death. If the bees don't die from the diseases, then they spread through the pollination, so that other organisms that touch the flowers can become ill. They also intoxicate the honey that they produce and we eat. Scientists are not sure if these diseases are harmful to humans as well, so we are all taking risks eating the honey that they produce. We could be carrying the diseases that could end up being fatal to us too. Not to mention, this is killing honeybees, which are important to the environment in order to help plants grow. Then, for example, take genetically modified potatoes. These potatoes were fed to groups of 10 to 20 rats, and many of the rats died. The rats did survive. The rats that did survive developed a decrease in brain, testicle, and liver size, and they also developed precancerous signs, and some of them even became paralyzed. Just think about what these potatoes could be doing to the humans, too.
Why should these foods be labeled?
I think that these foods should be labeled because people have the right to know what they're eating. These foods can be lacking in nutrients that are necessary to every human being. Genetically modified foods are made with chemicals, and what do we know about putting it in our bodies? GM foods have not been proven safe, which means they could be causing harm to us and we're not even aware of it. We don't know any of the long-term effects, and who knows what could happen.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm here with Professor DeMarco from Oxford University. She's here to tell us the statistics on genetically modified food. Are you for or against genetically modified food?
Well, I don't really have a side. I like to look at both equally because they both have their pros and their cons, and they should be given a chance until we know what's really going on.
What are the positives about them?
Well, there's a pretty long list. Some of the positives is that they actually improve the food itself. When you modify the foods, you can change the genes in charge of making nutrients in the fruit or the vegetables. So you can tell the gene to increase the amount of nutrients, making its nutritional value increase, or some other benefits include the fact that their immunity to things increase a very substantial amount. When most plants would need herbicides or pesticides to kill pests and weeds, genetically modified foods can kill these without human aid. This helps the environment since pesticides can contaminate the air and the areas surrounding it. Speaking of the environment, most crops have to be grown in rivers or places with good soil, whereas genetically modified foods can be grown almost everywhere. Desert types or dry types areas can be used and the crops should have no trouble growing and should be able to take the climate. Honestly, there are so many more great things about these foods. They grow faster, they grow better, and there's just way more of them. The pros just keep on adding up.
And what are some of the negatives? Well,
despite everything I did just say, there are a few things that are pretty disadvantageous in this situation. And one of the biggest ones is that it can cause harm to the human body and cause diseases that are immune to our antibodies, giving us no way to fight back the disease, which would most likely cause the body to progress to death at one point. And since these foods are still new to science, not much is known about their long-term effects. So people who consume large amounts of these foods, which is basically America, because if you didn't know, 70% of our grocery stores are filled with genetically modified foods. So we have, after eating all this food, there's a very large risk of a lot of people getting cancer in the future. I mean, earlier, there was a study done that showed that I heard one of your other people being interviewed talk about it, where these rats were given just a regular store-bought potato, and they were fed it for about 3 weeks, and just after, within 10 days, they were deciding, they were getting these precancerous signs and getting all these other terrible side effects. It's not good. And not knowing anything about them is our biggest disadvantage. We're trying our best to discover as much as possible about them, but it takes time to know about something like that. For example, new allergens are breaking out everywhere with these foods. People are reporting allergic reactions, and it's terrible. A couple of people even died from this. And, so we've even told people, no matter how hard you try and single out this allergen at the moment, since, it's so many foreign things in our body, we can't single out anything. And, you can't be, immune to, you can't get, tested for anything if you don't know what you're allergic to. And just, there's lots of other things that harms the environment. It's just, they have a good amount of cons.
So how have genetically modified foods helped the public health?
Well, like I said, going back to the positives, these foods have a better nutritional quality, giving our bodies more of the vitamins and nutrients we need. And not to mention, in developing countries, this could be very beneficial. Many people in developing countries suffer from malnutrition or hunger because the food isn't healthy there, or there isn't much food at all. But with genetically modified foods, they can still grow in so many different environments. You can grow more of it, and you don't need as much human aid. So we can potentially feed all of these countries and make their health itself go up.
And what is the financial impact of these foods?
Well, with these foods, it could be very beneficial for the future because the process does not cost that much money. So, for food companies, it's going to give them a lot better profits because they won't have to spend as much on actually, making the food and modifying the food. And it should help out the economy a lot.
I don't know what's next. Do you think genetically modified foods should be labeled?
I think they should. No matter what side you're on, people deserve to know what they're eating. I mean, you need to know. Think of the nutrition bars on the side of the box. They tell you what you're eating. There's no big deal about those, but if all of a sudden you're telling people that you need to put the labels on for if you're eating genetically modified food or not, it's a whole big uprise, but I think it should be taken into consideration for the future.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Concludes all of our interviews today. So I'll leave it up to you to choose what side you're on.